I mean, again, like Strud, you've been in those rooms and you've had to answer these questions, I'm sure. And I'm sure this happens more often than we think, where there are issues within a locker room. I mean, you've got 30 different people coming from 30 different situations. Like, I don't know why this one seems to be getting, like, super over-publicized at this point.
It's really interesting. I never was a part of anything like this. Like, there'd be little dust-ups. Like, I fought a couple of my teammates, but then, you'd blow over. And usually that was enough. It would release the pressure, and you'd kind of move on from it. And, like, I remember one time when I played the Rangers, there was Avery and Shanahan were there. And they were tight friends. And I hadn't played in, let's say, 4 or 5 games. We were doing a drill, and Avery said something to me that I was about to chirp me. And I snapped. And I instead of doing the drill, I chased him around, and he went and stood behind Shanahan. Shanny said, "Struddy, that's enough." I said, "Shanny, if you don't get out of the way, I'm going to beat you up. Then I'm going to beat up Sean Avery." And so he got out of the way. Then the coaches got in, and it was over. But, I mean, I loved Shanny. I still love him. But I was like, I don't care. Like, I'm coming to get this guy. So that happens. It brushed over and we were fine. But this doesn't seem to be brushing over. Again, we're not in the room. But if it doesn't go away, what's the saying? If there's smoke, there's fire. Like, there's something going on here. And it's obvious the way they're playing with or without each other that it's not working. But I'm telling you guys, if one of them gets traded, they'll be less talented probably.
I agree.
The team left behind, and then the guy will go somewhere else. He won't be happy either.
Probably not.
So Vancouver's a great place. Do not leave. Do not figure this out. Padded room, 72 hours with a Christmas wreath in the middle. Figure it out.
Little kumbaya. We'll sing some Christmas carols and go out there in downtown Vancouver and let's get this thing wrapped up. I hope that's the case for the Vancouver Canucks because this is not something that they clearly want to entertain going forward. I have a grievance to air here on this day of Festivus, and it's the lack of transparency when it comes to the Maple Leafs and the injury situation. How many times this year have we been told, like, day to day, and next time day to day turns into he's going to miss a game, then he's out for a couple games, he's on IR. Next thing you know, the guy's in Germany getting some special treatment from a doctor that we don't really know much about. Like, the lack of transparency with the Maple Leafs this year when it comes to the injuries has been abhorrent, honestly. And it's not that I want to know what the injury is, but it's more so the severity would be nice to know. And especially when you look at this Austin Matthews situation, we have no idea what's going on. No idea what's happening. We got theories, have a lot of thoughts about what could possibly be going on. But ultimately, we have no idea. And I feel like in 2024, the public deserves to know. And especially, and you could look at this from many different aspects, but there's a lot that's baked into this, right? You can even look at it from a betting perspective, which gets a lot of old school people upset when you look at it from this. But if he's battling an injury, I would like to know that before I go and place money and wagers or before I'm using him in a daily fantasy face-off of some kind and place my hard-earned money on this guy. I think I would like to know. I think that the betting public would like to know what's going on, and everyone else and the Leafs fans would like to know what's happening. But this team provides zero transparency to any of their injuries, and it's really, really getting old.
Yeah, I'm with you, brother. They made a mockery of day-to-day because, day-to-day turned into it wasn't today, it wasn't tomorrow, it was weeks. It was weeks. And, the problem is it's not the Leafs to me. It's the league that allows them to get away with it, right? Like the NFL, to your point about betting, has long had, standardized injury reporting protocol. Now, you can circumvent that, and there's teams that play fast and loose with the protocol, but at least they have one. The NHL, there's very little in terms of what teams are expected to report. And we know nothing about Matthews' injury.
Day to day with an upper body injury. What does that mean?
And Struddy, I know there's this argument about, well, if we report our injuries, we're putting our players at risk. You know what? The NFL is the most violent league on the planet, and they report injuries very specifically. This guy's got an ankle. This guy's got a sore back. This guy's had a concussion. And guess what? Players survive. And targeting, to my knowledge, it happens. But it's not such a big problem that you can't overcome it and you can't protect yourself.
Yeah, I like the way you frame that. And this is what I would say. I wish that they were clear on the injuries for sure. Festchuk takes a shot. It breaks my hand. I know your shot's not that hard. We're just pretending.
Of course.
And it hits my hand, and I'm out 4 to 6 weeks. You just say Strudwick, broken hand, 4 to 6 weeks. Boom.
Right.
It's gone. But, maybe in the case of Matthews, maybe they're not sure. Right? You think of Thatcher Demko with his knee situation. What is it? Is he in for longer, out for longer? I believe, if I'm correct, but with Stolars, didn't Trey Living say there was a bubble or a pebble behind his knee, and we're going to do this and clear it up. Like, I like that. When you know what it is and you think you know 100% what the time is, like even a knee, I get hit on my knee and it's a stretched ACL or whatever. I'm out for, he's going to be 4 to 6 weeks. This is what it is. But be clear on the ones you know for sure. The ones that maybe you're not sure of, then maybe have a little more leeway, guys.
Yeah, I think I could get behind that. Like, for another example, today, Chris Tanev missed the game with an undisclosed injury, and he was a scratch today.
Lower body.
What the answer
Lower
was.
body.
Lower body. What does that mean?
Yeah.
Lower body injury.
Yeah.
Could have been anything, but it's the severity. You have no idea how long he's going to be out for. It really, really grinds my gears to take a quote from old Peter Griffin.
General body soreness, the old baseball. He's not playing because of general body soreness. What? General body soreness. Like, I would never want it. I'd say I'll play. Don't tell people I have general body soreness.
That's like
Everyone
the
does.
old dead arm in baseball.
Exactly.
Which is a legitimate thing, especially if you're remember when Josh Donaldson was going through the dead arm thing? He couldn't throw to first base. Right. That was a problem, but it just sounds so...
Heavy legs. He has heavy legs. He'd never play. I would have never played if there's heavy legs here. Can't play tonight. Heavy legs.
Heavy legs.
Thanks, Tips.
All right, we got to fly. Coming up still, Luke Wilson got the pick to be made for the Monday Nighter tonight. Strutter Dud coming up. You got a couple Strud muffins cooking in the oven. I can smell them, Struddy. I can smell them. Yep. Chris Johnson going to join us, as will Keegan Matheson. You're listening to Overdrive on TSN 1050 and also up on TSN+.
Now, back to Overdrive with Hayes, Noodles, and the O-Dog.
Overdrive is brought to you by FanDuel, bringing you everything from the opening line to the final score. Mike DiStefano filling in for Brian Hayes. We got Jason Strugwitt and Dave Festchuk in alongside me. Do you guys see this this tilt out in a Saskatchewan men's league hockey game? Oh my goodness! I think we have the clip here, but two gentlemen, a father and a son, absolutely laying haymakers on each other in a men's league game. I mean, Strutty, what's going on out west, pal?
We call this Christmas. That's what we do. That's how tough we are. We fight our kids. We fight our dads.
Oh man!
Just can you imagine around the
Christmas table,
Christmas dinner that night? Dad, can you pass the cranberry? I can't. My hand's sore, son. I pounded you so much the other night. That's a tough one. I've never heard of a father-son fighting on the ice. I haven't seen that in my time, Festchuk.
I mean,
that's quite the tilt too.
That's a little
they
aggressive.
Were going at each other. Good.
There's some pent up feelings between those two. Let's just say that's
be proud of your
tough
son.
Love. That's
son,
just
good job. Like, where to get in there and battle, right? Like, can you imagine this guy's a hockey dad? He was right up on the glass behind the goalie, just yelling at his kid the whole time he was going up playing. There's no doubt. We all know that guy. Right? Like a Pierre LeBrun.
Oh, yeah.
That kind of guy.
I gotta say, I don't know anybody that would punch their kid in the face. I just haven't met that guy until we saw this guy. I don't know that guy.
Gotta come Saskatchewan. That's just normal. Christmas skate. Family skate.
Built different out west, Strud. Built different out west.
Gritty. I want to be at that table when the mom sits down and looks at them both like, are you guys kidding me?
3 days before Christmas? Come on.
I made my special pierogi casserole, and you guys ruined it because you were fighting 2 days ago, and everyone's making fun of us.
All right. Overdrive, hour 2, continuing on the other side with Mike DiStefano, Strutty, and Dave Fett.
Leafs facing center crisis amid injuries, eyeing trade market for solutions. As the Toronto Maple Leafs battle through a growing injury list and a suspension, their lack of depth at the center position has become a glaring issue. According to Sportsnet's Elliotte Friedman in his latest 32 Thoughts article, the Leafs are among the teams exploring trade options to bolster their lineup. This effort is coming amid increasing competition from teams like the Chicago Blackhawks and Nashville Predators, who have also set their sights on improving their center depth. Friedman didn't mince words about the Leafs' predicament. The teams currently focusing on centers, including Chicago and Nashville, must consider when others will enter the market. Toronto will undoubtedly be one of those teams, he wrote. While the Blackhawks and Predators may have an edge in terms of cap space and assets, the Leafs remain a team to watch as the season progresses. The Leafs situation is urgent, with up to 7 forwards currently unavailable due to injury or suspension. Ryan Reeves is serving a 5-game suspension, while key players like Auston Matthews, upper body, Matthew Knies, upper body, Kaje Jarnkrok, groin/sports hernia, David Kampf, lower body, Max Domi, lower body, and Max Pacioretty, lower body, are all sidelined. The team has even considered temporarily shifting Mitch Marner to the center position, highlighting the severity of their depth issues. This isn't just a short-term concern for the Leafs. Depth at center has been a persistent challenge for the team, and while stopgap solutions like Marner could help in the interim, the front office appears keen to explore longer-term fixes. For fans of the blue and white, this has been a recurring theme. The Leafs' center depth often becomes a problem at the worst possible times. James Myrtle of The Athletic recently added more fuel to the speculation, naming several potential trade targets who could help the Leafs address their issues. Among them is Ryan O'Reilly, a familiar name for Toronto fans. O'Reilly, who signed a 4-year, $18 million deal with Nashville in 2023, might be a trade candidate if the Predators' underwhelming start to the season, 6-11-3, 31st in the league, prompts a rebuild. However, his steep price tag and history with the Leafs, including rejecting a free agency offer less than 2 years ago, make this a complex and potentially unlikely move. Other names mentioned by Myrtle include former Leaf Nazem Kadri, currently with Calgary, as well as players like Michael Granlund, Nick Jugstad, Brock Nelson, Yanni Gourde, Trent Frederic, Radek Faksa, and Sean Kuraly. While some of these options seem more plausible than others, it's clear that general manager Brad Treliving will need to get creative to find the right piece without mortgaging the team's future. Cap space remains one of the biggest obstacles for the Leafs. Unlike teams like Chicago and Nashville, which have more flexibility and assets, Toronto is walking a financial tightrope. As Friedman noted, competition will intensify as cap-constrained teams strive to create room. For the Leafs, that could mean waiting for the market to develop further, a risky move given their current needs. The situation also highlights the Leafs' ongoing struggle to build a roster that can withstand the grueling nature of an NHL season. Injuries are an inevitability in hockey, but Toronto's current predicament underscores the importance of depth, a quality the team has struggled to consistently maintain. Looking back on recent years, the Leafs have often leaned heavily on their star players, particularly Matthews, Marner, and William Nylander. While these players have delivered in spades, the lack of reliable depth options has left the team vulnerable in critical moments. The current crisis at center is merely the latest example of this recurring issue. Some fans have called for more aggressive moves from Treliving, arguing that now is the time to strike while the team's core is in its prime. Others, however, are more cautious, pointing to the dangers of overpaying for short-term fixes. Striking the right balance will be key, especially as the Leafs aim to keep their championship window open. Despite the challenges, there's no denying that Toronto has the talent to be a contender, provided they can patch up their lineup. The ongoing rumors and speculation surrounding potential trades show that the Leafs are at least exploring every avenue to strengthen their roster. For fans of the blue and white, this moment feels like a pivotal point in the season. With a lineup ravaged by injuries and a tough schedule ahead, the Leafs must act decisively to avoid falling behind in the standings. The addition of a dependable center could be the difference between weathering the storm or watching another season slip away. Whether it's O'Reilly, Kadri, or another surprise name, one thing is certain: the Leafs are under pressure to deliver. And for a fan base as passionate and loyal as Toronto's, there's no room for excuses. The time to act is now, and Leafs Nation is watching closely. As the trade deadline approaches, the stakes couldn't be higher. Will Treliving pull off a move that solidifies the Leafs' status as a contender, or will the search for center depth become yet another chapter in the team's long history of what-ifs? Only time will tell, but one thing's for sure, it's never boring in Leafs land. As the Maple Leafs navigate this critical juncture, their fan base remains as vocal as ever. Toronto is a city that breathes hockey, and the pressure on Brad Treliving to make the right moves is immense. Every decision he makes, or doesn't make, will be scrutinized, from talk radio to social media, where Leafs Nation is already debating the merits of the various names being floated as potential trade targets. Among the louder debates is whether the team should prioritize a high-profile acquisition like Ryan O'Reilly or Nazem Kadri, or focus on a lower-cost, reliable center who can fill a supporting role without costing too many future assets. While O'Reilly's leadership and playoff experience make him an attractive option, his contract and recent history with the Leafs add layers of complexity to any potential reunion. Similarly, Kadri's gritty, two-way playstyle remains a fan favorite, but his cap hit and availability might render him an unrealistic target. Another factor complicating the Leafs' situation is their tight salary cap. While Chicago and Nashville can make moves with relative ease due to their financial flexibility, Toronto must navigate a labyrinth of constraints to make any trade work. This likely means including salary retention or moving existing contracts to make room, which could drive up the cost of any potential deal. The question then becomes, how much are the Leafs willing to sacrifice to address their immediate needs? One potential trade partner generating buzz is the Seattle Kraken. Yanni Gourde, a dependable two-way center, has been mentioned as a possible target. Gourde's versatility and championship pedigree from his time with Tampa Bay make him an appealing option. Seattle, however, is in playoff contention and may not be inclined to part with a key piece unless the Leafs can provide a substantial return. Another intriguing name is Brock Nelson of the New York Islanders. Nelson is a consistent scorer and reliable faceoffman, qualities that would undoubtedly bolster Toronto's center depth. However, the Islanders are notoriously cautious when it comes to trades, and prying Nelson away would likely require a significant package, including picks or prospects that the Leafs may be hesitant to part with. For all the trade talk, some analysts believe the solution might come from within. Sheldon Keefe has shown a willingness to experiment with his lineup, and players like Pontus Holmberg or Fraser Minten could be given an opportunity to step up. While relying on less experienced players carries risks, it might be the Leafs' only option if the trade market proves too costly or slow to develop. Adding to the Leafs' urgency is the timing. The Atlantic Division remains one of the toughest in the league, with teams like Boston, Florida, and Tampa Bay continuing to dominate. Any prolonged slump could see Toronto slip further down the standings, putting their playoff hopes in jeopardy. For a team with Stanley Cup aspirations, failing to address their weaknesses could have catastrophic consequences. Brad Treliving's history as a general manager suggests he's not afraid to make bold moves. His time with the Calgary Flames was marked by blockbuster trades, including the acquisition of Jonathan Huberdeau and Mackenzie Weegar in the Matthew Tkachuk deal. Leafs fans hope he brings that same decisiveness to Toronto, especially as the trade deadline looms. Beyond the immediate need for a center, this situation underscores a broader issue with the Leafs roster construction. Depth has been a perennial concern, and while Toronto boasts some of the league's top-end talent, their reliance on a handful of stars has left them vulnerable in moments like this. Moving forward, addressing this imbalance must be a priority for the front office if the team is to achieve sustained success. As the Leafs head into a critical stretch of the season, the next few weeks could define their trajectory.